Winning the lottery will not make you happier. Not for very long and not by nearly as much as you think. There's a 1978 study that proves it, and it's more unsettling than it sounds. I know how that sounds. So let's start with what actually happened. In 1978, 3 psychologists, Philip Brickman, Dan Coates, and Ronnie Janoff-Bulman, set out to test something nobody had tested before. They found 2 groups of people whose lives had just been completely transformed. The first group, recent lottery winners, people who'd won what would today be worth hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. The second group, people who had recently become paraplegic or quadriplegic as a result of an accident. 2 groups, 2 life-altering events. One overwhelmingly positive, one overwhelmingly tragic. The researchers asked both groups to rate their day-to-day happiness, how much pleasure they took in ordinary moments, how happy they expected to be in the future, how happy they'd been in the recent past, and compared their answers to a third group of ordinary people whose lives hadn't changed at all. Here's what they found. The lottery winners were not significantly happier than the ordinary control group. And the accident victims, while certain specific moments were harder, were not nearly as devastated in their overall day-to-day happiness as anyone would have predicted. Within about a year, both groups had drifted back toward roughly the same baseline level of happiness they'd had before the life-changing event. Sit with that for a second. A windfall large enough to change someone's entire financial future, and a tragedy severe enough to change someone's entire physical future. And 1 year later, the emotional needle had barely moved for either group. If you're skeptical, that's the right instinct. It's a small, old study, and it's been debated and refined for decades since. But the core pattern it identified, a return to baseline after major life events in both directions, has shown up again and again in the happiness research that followed. It has a name now, hedonic adaptation. And it's worth understanding, because almost everyone plans their financial life as if it isn't true. Your brain doesn't measure happiness in absolute terms. It measures it relative to a baseline, and that baseline recalibrates around whatever your life currently looks like. Think about it like your eyes adjusting to a dark room. Walk in and everything looks pitch black for a moment. Give it a few minutes and you can see shapes, outlines, movement. Your eyes didn't get better. They adjusted to the new normal. Your emotional system works almost exactly the same way. A huge financial windfall is like suddenly turning all the lights on. For a moment, everything is dazzling. But within weeks or months, your eyes adjust. The brightness becomes the new normal. And normal, by definition, doesn't feel exciting anymore. This isn't a flaw in your character or a sign of ingratitude. It's closer to a survival feature. A brain that stayed permanently thrilled by good fortune would have no motivation left to keep improving its situation. A brain that stayed permanently devastated by bad fortune would struggle to function at all. Adaptation, in both directions, is what let humans keep functioning through enormous swings in circumstance for thousands of years. It just happens to work against you in one very specific modern situation: the belief that a big enough windfall will finally make happiness permanent. Here's the part that makes this genuinely counterintuitive, though. You'd expect the adaptation to be slower for something as dramatic as a lottery win. Common sense says a huge event should leave a huge, lasting mark. But the brain doesn't scale its adaptation speed to the size of the event the way you'd think. It scales to how quickly the new circumstance becomes familiar, and familiarity for most people arrives faster than anyone expects, regardless of how large the initial change was. Let's make this concrete with a simple illustrative example. Not real data, just a picture of how this tends to play out. Picture 2 hypothetical people, Arjun and Meera, who each win a large jackpot in the same year. Both start at an ordinary baseline happiness score of 7 out of 10. The month they win, both spike to 9.5. That's the dazzling part everyone expects. Arjun treats the win as permission. A bigger house, a nicer car, an early exit from his job. By month 6, his score has already drifted down to 8.2. By year 1, it's back to 7.3. By year 2, it settles at 7.1, almost exactly where he started, except his monthly expenses have roughly tripled to maintain the new lifestyle. Meera takes a different path. She keeps her job and routine mostly intact, and uses the money to build long-term security, investments, a paid-off home, a real safety net. Her happiness score follows an almost identical curve on paper. 9.5 at the win, 8.0 by month 6, settling around 7.4 by year 2. Almost the same happiness numbers as Arjun. But here's the number that actually matters more. Arjun's monthly financial obligations went up. Meera's monthly financial fragility went down. Same happiness trajectory. Completely different position if either of them lost their job tomorrow, or faced an unexpected expense or wanted to change careers. That's the simple question. Did the money make them happy? Misses entirely. It only measures the feeling. It doesn't measure the foundation underneath the feeling. Now, you might be thinking, this is interesting, but I'm probably never going to win the lottery. Fair. But the exact same mechanism runs on a smaller scale far more often in situations most people actually encounter. A year-end bonus, an inheritance, a tax refund, any lump sum that arrives all at once, outside your normal income pattern. The pattern is identical, just compressed. There's an initial spike, genuine excitement, a real feeling of possibility. Then, over a period of weeks rather than years, the same recalibration happens. The money gets absorbed into a slightly upgraded version of normal life, and normal life once again stops feeling exciting. There's an even smaller, stranger version of this worth mentioning, because it shows how automatic the mechanism really is. Think about the last time you almost won something. A near miss on a scratch card, a close call in a small office raffle, a you were one number away moment. For a few seconds, your brain runs a version of the same excitement circuitry as an actual win. And within minutes, sometimes seconds, it resets completely, often without you even registering that a small emotional spike happened at all. The adaptation isn't just fast. In small enough doses, it's nearly instantaneous. This is why a bonus can disappear into just life within a couple of months, and why an inheritance that felt like it would change everything can, a year later, feel like it barely made a dent, even when the money technically still exists in some form. The lottery study is dramatic because the numbers are dramatic. But the mechanism it's describing is running quietly under every windfall you'll ever receive, at every scale, from a lottery jackpot down to a $5 scratch card. So if a massive windfall doesn't durably move your happiness, what does? The research consistently points to a short list, and it's almost annoyingly unglamorous. Strong relationships, a sense of autonomy and control over your daily life, feeling like your work or time has meaning, and the removal of genuine financial stress, like not being able to pay for medical care or housing. Let's take those one at a time, because each one behaves differently from money in an important way. Relationships don't seem to fully adapt the same way windfalls do. A close friendship or a stable marriage tends to keep contributing to day-to-day well-being year after year, rather than fading into the background the way a nicer car or a bigger house does. Part of the reason may be that relationships keep changing and providing new experiences, which gives the brain less of a fixed new normal to adapt to. Autonomy, a sense of control over your own time and decisions, shows a similar pattern. It's not a one-time event your brain can fully absorb and move past. It's an ongoing condition that keeps being relevant every single day you experience it. Meaning works the same way. Work or activities that feel purposeful don't lose their psychological value just because you've been doing them for a while, the way a luxury purchase loses its shine. And removing genuine financial stress is different from adding financial abundance. Going from, I might not make rent to I can cover my basic needs reliably is not the same kind of change as going from comfortable to wealthy. The first change removes a source of daily, chronic stress. The second change is mostly a change in category of purchase, and categories of purchase are exactly what your brain adapts to fastest. Notice what's missing from that whole list. The size of your bank account past the point where basic security is covered. This tracks with what we covered in the last video. Income and well-being don't move together indefinitely. They move together up to a point of covered basic needs and security, and then the relationship weakens dramatically. The uncomfortable implication is this: chasing a lottery-sized windfall as the solution to unhappiness is chasing the wrong lever. Not because money is meaningless, it clearly isn't, especially below that security threshold, but because past a certain point, the thing that actually determines your day-to-day happiness has almost nothing to do with the number in your account and almost everything to do with what you do with your time, who you spend it with, and how much control you feel over your own life. Go back to Arjun and Meera for a second. Neither of them ended up meaningfully happier than the other, day to day. But ask which of them is in a better position to handle whatever comes next. A bad year, a health scare, a career change, and the answer isn't close. Meera built something durable with the same emotional payoff. Arjun built something fragile with the same emotional payoff. The windfall was identical. The outcome underneath the happiness score was not "here's the version of this that's actually useful," rather than just interesting. If you're waiting for some future financial milestone, the big raise, the exit, the jackpot, to be the moment your happiness finally locks in, this research says something quietly important. It won't. Not because you don't deserve it or won't enjoy it. You will for a while. But your baseline will follow you there the same way it follows everyone, and you'll be looking for the next milestone before you know it. The things that actually hold relationships, autonomy, meaning, security are available to build right now at your current income in a way no future windfall can substitute for. And the next time money arrives unexpectedly, a bonus, a gift, a stroke of luck, you now have a choice the Arjuns of the world don't realize they're making. Let it quietly raise your baseline, or use it to quietly lower your fragility. Same windfall, same initial spike of happiness. Completely different year 2. That's not a consolation prize. It's the actual finding, sitting quietly inside one of the most famous psychology studies of the last 50 years. If this shifted how you think about money and happiness, subscribe, because next time we're taking this exact framework and applying it to something almost everyone gets wrong about salary negotiations. I'll see you in the next one.